Welcome to today's deep dive. May God bless your day and your entire week as we embark on this journey together.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm really looking forward to getting into this one.
Me too. Today, we are opening up a remarkable chapter of ancient history and faith. We're looking at Genesis chapter 23.
Right.
And to unpack this text, we are drawing on the synthesized insights from two incredibly detailed sources. That's the Holman Study Bible and the Nova Almeida Actualizada, or NAA Study Bible.
Which are both just fantastic resources for this kind of work.
They really are.
Because our mission for this deep dive is to examine a narrative that is, well, it's far more complex than just a simple historical record or a family genealogy.
Right. There's a lot going on beneath the surface.
Exactly. We are going to break down an ancient negotiation that operates on multiple levels. I mean, it is a high-stakes real estate transaction. It's this incredibly intricate cultural dance. And fun in
It's
that...
a profound demonstration of faith.
Yes. Faith in the face of immense loss. We are looking at the death of Sarah, and we're going to explore how Abraham's purchase of a simple burial cave laid a permanent, ironclad legal foundation for the generations that would follow him.
And the setting of the scene here is deeply moving because it starts with an ending.
Right.
Genesis 23 opens with the passing of Sarah, who was, Abraham's lifelong partner in this massive multi-decade journey of faith. The text records that she dies in Kiriath Arba in the land of Canaan.
Which is an important location.
Yeah, for a bit of geographical context, the NAA study notes point out that Kiriath Arba translates to City of Arba, a location that eventually becomes widely known as Hebron. So Abraham comes there to mourn for Sarah and to weep for her.
And right away, the text provides a detail about Sarah herself that really demands our attention.
Yeah, I found this fascinating.
It is. One of the study Bibles we're referencing, the Holman Notes, highlights this unique fact. The text explicitly states that Sarah lived to be 127 years old. Now, in the rhythm of biblical genealogies, yeah, it's easy to just read past a number like that.
Yeah.
But she is actually the only woman in the entire Bible whose exact age at death is recorded.
Wow. The only one. That is a striking distinction. It really elevates her position in the text significantly.
It absolutely does. That unique distinction underscores her immense importance, not just to Abraham personally, but to the entire historical and theological narrative of the text.
She wasn't simply a bystander.
No, not at all. She was the matriarch of a promise. Her passing represents the loss of the co-recipient to the divine promises they had been clinging to for decades.
Which naturally brings us to the identity paradox that Abraham finds himself navigating. I mean, Sarah has passed away, and he desperately needs a physical place to bury her.
Right.
So he approaches the local inhabitants, the Hittites, who are also referred to in the text as the sons of Heth. And when he speaks to them, he describes his own status in a very specific, almost vulnerable way.
Yes, he does.
He says, "I am a stranger and a sojourner among you." He is essentially identifying himself as a landless immigrant.
And that self-description carries an immense amount of weight when you look at the historical timeline.
How so?
Well, if we look at the timeline established in the text, Abraham has been living a semi-nomadic life in the land of Canaan for 62 years at this point.
62 years.
Over 6 decades. And yet, after all that time, he still doesn't own a single piece of permanent land. Not a square inch.
That's wild to think about.
It is. He has been living in the region relying entirely on divine promises that his descendants will one day inherit this territory. But in his present immediate reality, he has nowhere of his own to bury his wife.
So he's a wealthy man, a powerful man even, but legally speaking, he is a resident alien.
Exactly.
There is a strange dynamic here, though. Abraham calls himself an immigrant, a temporary resident, but the locals certainly don't treat him like one.
No, they don't.
The Hittites, the people who actually hold the legal rights to the land, respond to him with deep reverence. They tell him, "Hear us, my lord. You are a prince of God among us." They immediately offer him the choice of any of their own tombs.
It's a profound contrast. It speaks volumes about the character and the reputation he had built over those 62 years.
Yeah, they really respected him.
They did. The surrounding culture recognized an undeniable spiritual and social authority in him, even if he lacked the legal status of a landowner. They view him as a prince of God, an elevated figure worthy of high honor.
But he doesn't take them up on the offer.
Right, because Abraham doesn't want to just borrow a tomb, nor does he want to integrate his family's remains into the burial sites of the Hittites. He has a very specific goal in mind, which leads us right into the mechanics of the negotiation itself.
And to really understand that negotiation, we have to look at where it takes place. He goes to the city gate.
Yes, the city gate.
Which, as anyone familiar with ancient Near Eastern history knows, means this is a highly public, formal, legal setting. It's not a casual chat in an alleyway.
Precisely. In the ancient Middle East, the city gate was the hub of civic life. It functioned as the town hall, the judicial court, and the commercial center all at once.
It's where everything happened.
It was where public decisions were weighed, where legal matters were judged, and where formal transactions were ratified by the elders. By conducting his business there, Abraham is ensuring that his actions are witnessed by the most public forum possible.
So everyone is watching.
Everyone. The leaders, the merchants, the decision makers, everyone who mattered in that society was sitting at the gate watching this unfold.
So Abraham approaches the assembly, and the text says he bows respectfully to the people of the land. He asks the assembly to intercede for him with a specific individual, a man named Ephron, the son of Zohar.
Yeah.
Abraham has his eye on a very specific piece of property, the cave of Machpelah, which sits at the end of Ephron's field. And Abraham is remarkably clear about his intentions from the very first breath. He insists to the assembly that he wants to pay the full price for it.
He's not looking for a handout.
No, he's asking for a formal sale, not a favor.
But Ephron's response initiates an absolute masterclass in ancient cultural dynamics.
Oh, this part is so interesting.
It really is. Ephron stands up in front of everyone at the city gate and publicly offers to give the field and the cave to Abraham. He says, "No, my lord, hear me. I give you the field and I give you the cave that is in it."
On the surface, it sounds incredibly generous.
It does.
If we were reading this through a strictly modern lens, we might assume Ephron is just a deeply compassionate man handing over prime real estate to a grieving widower. But knowing the historical context, why would Ephron make an offer like that in such a public setting?
Because it wasn't actual generosity at all. It was a highly formalized cultural negotiation tactic.
A tactic?
Both of the study Bibles we're referencing clarify this point beautifully. In that specific ancient culture, you didn't just walk up and start throwing hard numbers around. That would be considered crude.
Bad manners.
Exactly. Instead, negotiations began with exaggerated performative offers of giving things away for free. Ephron fully expected Abraham to politely decline the gift and insist on paying.
So it's just a script they were reading from.
It was polite posturing, a required social script that both men understood perfectly.
Ah, so it's the opening move of a negotiation. It's akin to the battle for the dinner check, where everyone insists on paying, but with massive real estate and legal implications on the line.
That's a great way to put it.
Abraham plays his part in this cultural dance flawlessly. He bows again before the people of the land, showing absolute respect for their customs and their authority, and he insists once more that he will pay the price of the field. Only then does Ephron finally drop the number.
Yes, and notice the rhetorical packaging Ephron uses when he finally names the price.
The way he slips it in there.
Right, he says, "My lord, listen to me. A piece of land worth 400 shekels of silver, what is that between you and me? Bury your dead."
He frames it as if it's pocket change.
Just a minor, inconsequential detail between two wealthy friends.
That brings up a crucial detail we really need to weigh here. Just how much is 400 shekels of silver? Because Ephron is acting like it's a trivial amount, but I suspect it was anything but trivial.
It was a monumental sum. The sources give us excellent context to understand the economic weight of that figure.
What do they say?
The NAA notes calculate that 400 shekels is equivalent to about 4.5 kilograms of silver.
4.5 kilos.
Just strictly in terms of physical weight, that is a massive amount of precious metal to transport and transfer. But the Holman notes provide an even more staggering comparison to help us grasp the buying power of that silver in the ancient economy.
Okay, what does that kind of weight in silver actually buy in that era?
Based on valuations found later in the biblical text, specifically in the book of Leviticus chapter 27, 400 shekels of silver could be the equivalent of buying 8 healthy adult male slaves.
Wow, that is an astronomical valuation for a single field in a cave.
It was an exorbitant, highly inflated price. Ephron, behind all of his polite, flowery public language, was essentially charging a massive premium.
He saw an opportunity.
He did. He was likely taking advantage of Abraham's immediate public need to bury his wife, as well as Abraham's well-known wealth. He named a price so high that he probably expected Abraham to balk and begin the haggling process.
So Abraham is standing there in front of the town council, having just been quoted an inflated premium price by a man who 2 minutes ago was pretending to give the land away for free.
Right.
Culturally, this is exactly where you would expect the haggling to begin. You would expect Abraham to counteroffer, perhaps suggesting 100 shekels, and they would slowly negotiate their way to the middle.
That's how it normally works.
But Abraham's reaction defies all the cultural expectations of the moment.
It is a completely disruptive move. He doesn't haggle at all.
Not even a little.
None. The text says Abraham simply listened to Ephron, accepted the terms immediately, and weighed out the silver for him, the exact amount Ephron had named in the hearing of the Hittites.
He pays the 400 shekels right then and there, and the text specifies that the silver was weighed according to the standard current among the merchants.
Right. Since minted coins with stamped values didn't exist yet, this means they were dealing in raw bullion.
Exactly. Without standardized coins, the only way to conduct a transaction of this magnitude was to physically weigh the silver on a merchant scale using standard stone weights.
So doing it publicly was key.
Crucial. By doing this publicly, according to the accepted merchant standard, Abraham was ensuring absolute precision. There could be no accusation later that the silver was impure, that the weight was short, or that Abraham had somehow defrauded Ephron in the exchange.
Which naturally raises the question of motive.
Right.
Why would Abraham, who has successfully navigated complex geopolitical relationships with pharaohs and kings, just hand over a massive fortune without a single word of negotiation?
Our sources point out that this was actually a brilliant, deeply intentional legal maneuver.
Really? How so?
By paying the full, unquestioned, publicly stated price, and by weighing it out precisely at the accepted merchant standard, Abraham secured an ironclad title to the property.
Ah, I see. This aligns perfectly with what historians know about ancient Babylonian and Hittite legal customs regarding real estate.
So by avoiding the haggle, he removes any future shadow of a doubt regarding his ownership.
Precisely. In those ancient cultures, a land transaction wasn't just about the exchange of currency. It was about the public recognition of absolute ownership.
Because there's no paper deed office to go to.
Right. If Abraham had haggled the price down, Ephron or his descendants might later claim that they had been underpaid, or that the transaction was merely a lease, or that they still retained some ancestral rights to the land.
That makes total sense.
By paying the exorbitant asking price in full in front of the entire city council, Abraham ensured that no Hittite could ever contest his legal claim to that land. He bought it free and clear, forever.
The fine print of the transaction recorded in the text is meticulously detailed, which further supports that legal strategy.
It's very specific.
Abraham didn't just buy a hole in the rock. The legal transfer, witnessed by everyone entering the city gate, specifically included the cave of Machpelah, the field it was situated in, and it explicitly included all the trees that were within the borders of the property.
Yes, and that inclusion of the trees is a classic hallmark of ancient Near Eastern land deeds.
Why the trees specifically?
In that agrarian society, trees were incredibly valuable, long-term resources for fruit, for shade, and for wood. Often in ancient property sales, a seller might transfer the land but retain the usufruct rights.
Usufruct rights, what does that mean?
It's the right to continue harvesting the trees. If Ephron retained the rights to the trees, he would still have a legal reason to enter the property.
Meaning Abraham wouldn't have true, exclusive sovereignty over the burial site.
Exactly. Specifying that the trees were included in the sale meant Abraham was legally severing all of Ephron's ties to the property.
He locked him out entirely.
He wasn't just getting the ground. He was getting absolute domain over everything rooted in it. It was an exhaustive, comprehensive transfer of property rights, leaving no legal loopholes for future disputes.
So let's step back and look at the broader implications of all this. For you, the listener, you might be asking why a 4,000-year-old real estate deed regarding a cave and some trees warrants such deep exploration.
It's a fair question.
It matters because it serves as an absolute masterclass in planting a permanent flag for a promised future, even when you are currently living as a stranger in your circumstances.
That is the ultimate theological and historical takeaway, synthesized from both the Holman and NAA Study Bibles. This entire chapter, while initiated by the immediate tragedy of Sarah's passing, was about far more than a funeral.
It was a beginning.
Yes. This cave and this field constituted the very first piece of the Promised Land that Abraham legally and permanently owned. He had spent 62 years walking across land that God had promised to his descendants, but up until this transaction at the city gate, he hadn't owned a single stone of it.
He was entirely dependent on a promise for the future. But here, he takes tangible legal action in the present. He puts a massive fortune on the line to secure it.
It is his first tangible anchor in the land of promise. And the ripple effect of this single expensive purchase is monumental for the rest of the biblical narrative.
It sets the stage for everything that follows.
According to the study notes, this exact property, the Cave of Machpelah, doesn't just serve as Sarah's resting place. It becomes the permanent ancestral family tomb.
It becomes a monument. It transitions from a simple field to the physical epicenter of the patriarch's connection to the land. As the historical narrative unfolds in the subsequent chapters and books, we learn that this is the exact same cave where Abraham himself will eventually be buried.
Yes.
It is where his son Isaac and Isaac's wife Rebekah will be laid to rest, and generations later, it is where his grandson Jacob and Jacob's wife Leah will be buried.
By purchasing this specific field.
With all its trees and its cave.
Exactly. With the trees and the cave. Abraham legally tied his family to this piece of land for generations upon generations. He stopped being merely a nomad floating over the surface of the territory, and he put roots down quite literally and legally.
He secured a permanent place.
He secured a permanent place for his family's future, cementing their physical claim to the land long before the nation of Israel would eventually inhabit the rest of it.
It is an incredible pivot point in the history of this family. It is a transition from wandering to owning, sparked by a moment of profound grief, but executed with incredible foresight, cultural intelligence, and legal precision.
And as we reflect on the layers we've unpacked today, the cultural dance of the negotiation, the brilliant legal strategy of paying the full price, and the profound faith required to buy land you will never fully inherit in your lifetime, it leaves us with a compelling dynamic to consider. Think about the relationship between the physical assets we acquire and the lasting memory of who we are.
That's interesting.
Abraham bought literal dirt, rocks, and trees. Yet long after his physical life ended, that exact piece of real estate remained as a permanent testimony to his faith. It challenges us to reflect on how our own physical possessions, the land, the resources, the tangible things we leave behind, often outlast our personal memories.
They carry a legacy.
Exactly. What kind of spiritual legacy is tied to the physical assets you're acquiring today? Are the fields you are investing in serving merely your present comfort, or are they laying a foundation of faith for the generations that will inherit them?
That is a brilliant angle to consider. The tangible things we leave behind carrying the invisible weight of our convictions. Thank you for joining us for this deep dive into Genesis 23. As we sign off, may God bless all of you listening today. Take care.